Hello students, the topic of today's class is Vedic literature, and it's a very important topic both from the prelims point of view as well as from the mains point of view also, and we will discuss this topic here from both points of view. Prelims point of view also, what type of MCQs, objective questions you could get from the Vedic literature, and then when we will discuss, besides this factual concept, we will discuss the conceptual concepts also. We will discuss how the concepts emerged also. So this topic is very much important both from the factual point of view as well as from the conceptual point of view, for the prelims as well as for the mains. The topic is the Vedic literature. Students, as the term the Vedic literature signifies, it belongs to the Vedic period or the Vedic age. Vedic age, that was the age of the Veds, and this Vedic age starts from 1500 BC to 600 BC and divide into two parts. Early Vedic age, also known as the Rig Vedic age, because Rig Ved, the oldest Ved and the oldest religious book of the world, was written during this particular period from 1500 BC to 1000 BC, and various families of different sages, priests, saints were involved in giving this Rig Ved from generation to generation orally. And Rig Ved, that was the oldest Ved, and the later Vedic age, that is from the 1000 BC to 600 BC. So the Vedic literature covered the entire period of the Vedic age, that is of the early Vedic age as well as of the later Vedic age. In the early Vedic age, from 1500 BC to 1000 BC, only the Rig Ved was written. Only the Rig Ved that was on the Bhojpatas. And in the later Vedic age, that was the period of the later Vedas, like the Yajurved, Samved, Atharva Ved, and their Samhitas and Brahmans. That was the concluding portion of the Veds, that was the Brahman was written, and the concluding portion or the crux or the synopsis or the summary of the Brahmans is written in the Aranyaks, and the whole synopsis of the Aranyaks is written in the Upanishads. So what is the Upanishad? The entire philosophy of the Veds we get in the Upanishad. So from Samved, from Rig Ved was written in the early Vedic age, and rest of the Veds were written in the later Vedic age from 1000 to 600 BC, besides the Brahmans, Aranyaks and the Upanishad. So all this literature, that was the four Veds, their Samhitas, Brahmans, Aranyaks and Upanishad, they all belong to the Shruti literature. That is the Shruti literature, that is of the divine origin. And another literature, that is the Smriti literature, that is not of divine origin and that is memory based, and this Shruti was that was heard by the saints, by the rishis, by the sages, and the knowledge, the Vedic knowledge, that was delivered to them by the Almighty Parampita, Paramatma, Parabrahm himself. He gave the knowledge to the saints or the Vedic rishis, and they got this knowledge by hearing directly from the God. That's why the Veds are called Aparushya. Aparushya means, Parush means, that is the manly, that is the man, and Aparushya, that was not written by the man. That's why they are Aparushya. The Veds are called Aparushya. So that was a brief intro of the Vedic literature and what was the Vedic age and what was the early and what was the later Vedic age. Then we have to discuss the types of literature. As I told you, two types of literature we have to discuss here. One is the Shruti literature, that was of divine origin, and another is the Smriti literature. The Shruti literature, four Veds, Brahmans, Aranyaks and Upanishads, and in the Smriti literature was Vedangs, that was the part of Veds, then Shiksha, Vedangs divided into Shiksha, Yashka, Nirukta, etymology, grammar, Chand, Jyotish, Kalp, all these we have to discuss in the Smriti literature. Besides this, epics are also there, Purans are also there, that all belongs to the Smriti literature of the later Vedic age, and one is the Shruti literature. Okay students, we will discuss all these Veds in detail also. Then we have to discuss next important topic is why the Smriti literature emerged. Why this Smriti literature emerged? What was the cause behind the rise of the Smriti literature when the Shruti literature was there? Smriti literature, why the Smriti literature emerged? Because Shruti literature was not much comprehensive. Shruti literature was not much comprehensive to the people of the later Vedic age, because The language of the Veds was obsolete language that was a tough language, that was a hard language, and that was outdated language also by the time period of the later Vedic age. So that's why the Shruti literature was not much comprehensive. That was not much easy to understand to the common people. That's why there was the emergence, that's why there was the rise of the Smriti literature, that was the memory based. And that was the why the Smriti literature was emerged, because to make the hymns meaning very much easy. As just we discussed that the language of the Veds was obsolete language, that was outdated language, because that was the time period of 1000 BC. That was a time period around 5 to 600 years before the Veds were written. In the later Vedic age, that start from the 1000 BC, and early Vedic age starts from 1500 BC. So during this time period of 1500 plus year, the language of the Veds becomes obsolete language. That was an outdated language, and that language was not comprehensible and not understandable, comprehensive to the people of the later Vedic age. That's why they needed some other literature to understand what was written in the Veds, how the rituals, how the ceremonies could perform. That was very much difficult for the common people to understand, and that was difficult for the priests also. And that was the cause, that was the reason why there was the rise, or there was the emergence of the Smriti literature, because the Shruti literature was not comprehensive to the masses, to the common people. That was this question, and that is the conceptual point, and that question could be asked in the mains also, because here we have to discuss the concepts. Then to understand the whole concept, we have to compare the early Vedic with the later Vedic age also. We have to compare what was the society, polity, economy and religion in the early Vedic age, and how it was differ from the later Vedic age. We have to understand the whole background in order to understand why there was the rise of the Smriti literature from the Shruti literature. So Vedic society was society, polity, economy and religion, that we have to discuss here also. In that, in the later Vedic society, two important concepts took place. Two important events took place rather. One was the caste system and another was the discovery of the iron. These two important events were very much responsible for the rise of the Smriti literature up to a great extent. How? In the later Vedic age, caste system emerged because it is written in the 10th mandal of the Rig Veda, that is the Purusha Sukta theory is there, that is the Brahmas, from the mouth of the Brahma emerged the Brahmans and Kshatriyas from the hand, and Vaishya from the stomach, and Shudras from the feet. So why the Brahmans emerged from the mouth of the Lord Brahma? So we can compare this by saying that Brahmans' job was teaching and preaching, and teaching and preaching from the mouth. So that's why they emerged from the mouth of the Brahma. Kshatriya's job was to defend their territory, to defend their people, and they will defend their man, their territory, their people by their hands. That's why they emerged from the hands of Lord Brahma. Thirdly, the Vaishya job was trade and commerce. Besides, agriculture was also their aim, and they were responsible for the feeding to the entire society. That's why it is said that they emerged from the stomach of Lord Brahma. And Shudra job was to serve the rest of the three. And how they would serve the rest of the three? By going to them, by reaching them. And they would reach by what? By their feet. That's why they emerged from the feet of the Lord Brahma. And it is discussed in the Purusha Sukta theory that Brahmans, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, ultimately the caste system emerged in the later Vedic age. And because of that, there was the division of labor. And this division of labor ultimately responsible for giving the perfection to the people in their different professions. Because now the people had to follow whatever the job was being done in their family. That was the caste system. Otherwise, in the early Vedic age, there was no concept of caste system, and the people were completely free to go for any job, occupation, profession according to their will, talent and their will and talent. Whatever they had, they could go for any job. Because in the Rig Veda, we have a particular hymn is written there that in one particular family, we could have the instances of the farmers also, and the warriors also, and the farmers also. That's why there was no concept of caste system, but that caste system emerged in the later Vedic age. And when this concept emerged, the positive side of this concept was that the people started getting perfection because when they were doing a particular job for several generations, naturally they would become perfect in that job, and that was the positive aspect of the later Vedic age. But besides this, there is some negative aspects also, and that was the emergence of the caste system in our country. We have to discuss these two facts, that was the emergence of caste system, and second was the discovery of iron. So iron was also discovered by 1000 BC. How this iron was responsible for changing the polity of the later Vedic age with that of the early Vedic age. In the early Vedic age polity, what we have seen that there was the tribal kings were there only. The small, their area was very much a short area, and they used to work only for the cows, and the king was assisted by Senani, Purohit and Gramini, and the area was very much small. That was the different jans only. And in the later Vedic age, because of the discovery of the iron, they were able to get many advanced tools and weapons in the war, and by that they were able to defeat different jans, and that's how the different jans converted into the Mahajanpads. So now under the ruler, the area was very much large as compared to the area of the early Vedic age, and with this large area, their status, their power was become very much large, and power was enhanced also. And that's why they started the rituals. So how we are seeing here how the polity was changing the religious life also. So after becoming much more powerful, and when more area was under their influence, they started rituals, sacrifices on very large and grand scales. Then sacrifices just like the Ashwamedha was also started, then Vajapaya, Rajasuya, different types of yags, Havan ceremonies they started and with a very great pomp and show also. That's why there was the rise of different categories of Brahmins also, and this Vedic religion of later Vedic age was different from the early Vedic age religion. In the early Vedic age, what we have seen that it was the only head of the family, that was the Kulpati, who used to perform the religious sacrifices and ceremony in the most simplest way with the rest of the family members within the four walls, and there was no need to call any priest from outside. But in the later Vedic age, because the power of the king was very much increased and the area of influence was very much increased, and Brahmins also somewhere supported them and encouraged them to start sacrifices at very large scale, and that's why there was the rise of the Ashwamedha Yagya was there, Rajasuya, Vajapaya, etc. Havans and yags sacrifices were also started there. Now the point here is that when the area was very much large and these rituals become very much complicated also, so that's why there was the rise of these Smriti literature to make hymns meaning easy. What we have seen in the early Vedic age, the Vedic hymns were passed on from one generation to another generation orally. They used to give the knowledge of the Veds, hymns from generation to generation orally, and that's why there was not change in them also, and they were not easily understandable to the people also, neither to the priest and nor to the common people, and that was just in a formal way they used to perform the religious sacrifices and ceremony without understanding the real meaning behind them. Why? Because that particular time the area of the king was also very much short. Very small area they were having, and that's why the concept to start these religious sacrifices ceremony at grand scale was not there in their mind also, and there was no need of them also. But in the later Vedic age, because of the discovery of the iron, because of the war weapons, the jans converted into the Mahajanpads, and when the Mahajanpads emerged, then there was the rise of big sacrifices and yajnas and rituals. And that's why there was the need of different type of Brahmins, and these Brahmins started these sacrifices at a very large scale, and that's why there was the rise of Shiksha, that was the phonetics. And what type of Shiksha was that? How to perform the religious sacrifices and ceremony in a right, in exact and in a perfect way. In a very perfect way. Just take the example of the MCQ question. Four options are there, A, B, C and D, and if you just mark C instead of D, the whole answer will be wrong, and you will say that, oh, by mistake I just marked C, otherwise the answer was D, but you will get a big zero in that question. Similarly, the case here was also, what type of Shiksha, phonetics, that was the language, how to pronounce the particular hymns, their words in a perfect way so that they would give you the complete benefit of that yajna. So that is why the shiksha and phonetics was started, and that was based on accent, flow, pitch, echo, frequency. कितनी कितनी आवाज़ से हमें उसको बोलना है, व्हाट शुड बी अवर फ्रीक्वेंसी, अवर इको कितना होना चाहिए उस पर्टिकुलर हवन और यज्ञ के लिए. दैट वॉज वेरी मच फोकस्ड नाउ. सेकेंडली द yaksha nirukti, yaksha nirukti, in this we get, that was a dictionary on the Vedic terms. So Vedic terms, Vedic language, I told you people, was obsolete language, outdated language, tough language, not comprehensive to the masses. So masses were in the need of such type of dictionary that was written by this yaksha nirukta, and this dictionary was what, that was giving the right meaning, the easy meaning of those obsolete or the tough language of the Vedic age. That's why this was very much important also. Third was the grammar. The grammar that was of the Panini, who wrote the Ashtadhyay, then Patanjali Mahavasya and Katyan Vratika. Patanjali, Panini, they wrote the grammar, and in that grammar, what they discussed the easy terms of the typical terms of the Vedic hymns. That's why this grammar also become very much important for in the Smriti literature. Then Chand was there in meter. So Chand, that is the meter. So in which the last words of the two lines are almost resemble with each other. So that is very much easy to learn, very much easy to understand, and very much easy to utter, or very much easy to chant those hymns who were written on the basis of the chand, or known as the meter. You can just take the example. If we take the example of this chand or meter from the Hanuman Chalisa, there we get that Jai Hanuman Gyan Gun Sagar Tihun Lok Ujagar. So there the Sagar and Ujagar, they are very much similar, and that's why it is very much easy to recite and easy to learn Hanuman Chalisa. That was the case here also. How to recite, how to learn the hymns of the Vedic age, of the Vedic, or in the, that was it in the Samhitas or the Brahmans or the Aranyaks or the Upanishad. That's why this chand meter is very much this also played very much important role. Then Jyotish was also played very much important role. How the Jyotish played important role, that was the role of the astrology. On what part? Because it was the astrologers who would tell that this particular hymn, this particular sacrifice, either that could be Ashwamedha or Rajasuya or Vajapiya or any other sacrifice, that should be performed on a particular date, a particular time, and from that time to that time. That would be told only by the astrologer. So that's why this Jyotish is also responsible in order to understand in a simple and comprehensive way what was written in the Vedic richas or Vedic hymns or the Vedic mantras. So this Jyotish was also very much important. And this Kalp, that is, now with the passage of time, these sacrifices started demanding more accuracy, and that's why there was the rise of the Kalp Sutra. And there was different division in that: Sulva Sutra, Shrota Sutra, Dharma Sutra, Griha Sutra. What should be the mode of conduct, what should be the behavior of the people in the society, that was all discussed there. Besides this Kalp Sutra tell us that when the priest would perform the Vedic yajnas or sacrifices, what should be how the offering should be offered to the particular deity, to the particular god in whose name the sacrifice is being done. What should be the ascending order of the offerings? What should be the measurement and size and place and direction of the fire altars? What should be the ascending and descending order of the offerings? And these offerings should be given in particular sequence, in ascending and descending order. So that much how these sacrifices, what we are seeing here, that how these sacrifices are now becoming very much complicated also, and that complication up to an extent was good also. Why? Because still we will not follow the accuracy in performing the havans and yajnas, we will not be able to get the desired results or desired fruits. Otherwise, the whole boon converted into the bane also. That's why these Vedangs or this Smriti played very much important role, and that's why the question from the mains point of view is here, that why the Smriti literature emerged. The Smriti literature, besides this, there are other Smriti literature that will define the sixth darshan, that we will also discuss later in this class. So why the Smriti literature emerged? Smriti literature emerged simply in order to make the tough, obsolete language based hymns, richas of the early Vedic age, and Besides this, because Shruti literature was not much comprehensive to the common people, that's why there was the rise of the Smriti literature. Then we have discussed the comparison of the early and Vedic age, what happened in the early Vedic society, polity, economy, religion, and how it was different from the later Vedic. And later Vedic society demand new types of later Vedic society demands some new forms of the literature, and that's why there was the rise of the Smriti literature. Students, after that, we are going to discuss what are the important Veds. Now we have to discuss the important Veds. Yes, students. So now I think the introduction of the Vedic literature is clear to you people, in which we discussed about the early Vedic and the later Vedic ages, and the Shruti literature and the Smriti literature, and what was the reason behind the emergence or rise of the Smriti literature that we have discussed. Now we have to discuss the different Veds and their Samhitas. Veds, as I discussed with you people, Veds are the Aparosya. They are known as the Aparosya because they were not written by the man or the human being. That's why they were Aparosya. And Parusya means when we discuss about the man, that is Parusya, and Aparusya not written by man. So these Veds were directly delivered by God, Parampita, Paramatma, Parabrahm, directly to the saints or the sages. And when these sages or saints or priests were in their high blissful stage, that was the stage of the Samadhi, that is known as the deepest meditation, when just there is no difference more between the saints and the Almighty God. That is the stage of Samadhi. So when these saints used to perform the Samadhis, and during that deep meditation, the Almighty delivered the Vedic knowledge, the Veds, to these saints, and that's why they are known as Aparosya. Sometimes the students confuse what is the difference between the Veds and their Samhitas. Every Ved has their own Samhitas. Rig Ved has also its Rig Vedic Samhita, Yajurved Samhita, then these Rig Ved, Samved, Yajurved, and other Ved. All the Veds have their respective Samhitas that attach to the Veds. Then what is the difference between the Samhitas and the Veds? Veds, as I told you, that was the supreme knowledge, the Ved that emerged from the term Vid, V-I-D, Vid, to know, knowledge, and that whole knowledge which a human being can expect and which can't expect, which is beyond his horizon also, that all include in the Veds. Each and every branch of the world and in this universe ultimately emerged from the Veds. They are the storehouses of all the knowledge. That's why Swami Dayanand Saraswati in 1875 gave the motto of what? Go back to Veds. Because in that particular 19th century period, the Indians were under the social evils and abuses like the child marriage, female infanticide, polygamy, parda, sati, illiteracy was completely there. Then people like Swami Dayanand Saraswati, Vivekananda, they emerged and asked the Indian people what you were in the past and now what you have become in the present. In the past, we had the universities like the present Cambridge and Oxford, like the Takshila University, Nalanda University, Vikramshila University, from where the people outside the world, outside the country used to come to study. And now in 1875 period, 19th century, you people are completely illiterate. That's why he gave the motto, the slogan of go back to Veds. So that's the Veds, how much the knowledgeable these Veds are. We can't expect any knowledge outside these Veds. Then the oldest Ved, that is the Rig Ved, that was written from 1500 BC to 1000 BC. And every Ved has its peculiar characteristics. Just like the Rig Veda, the hymns of the Rig Veda, the Richas, the mantras, the Shruti, that was sung for at the time of praising the Hindu deities in its hymn. Rig Veda, what Rig Veda? Just like the Samved, it is on this the Indian music based on the Samveda. Then what is the other Veda? How to cope up with the evil spirits and evil spirits and magic, etc. How we can cope up with those evil spirits, that is discussed in the other Veda. Samved is our Indian music that is based on the Samved. Then in what is written in the Yajurveda, how we can go and how we can perform, how we should perform the Vedic rituals and sacrifices, that is discussed in the what? That is discussed in the Yajurveda. And in Rig Veda, what is discussed here? In the Rig Veda, it is discussed here that these hymns were for the praising the Hindu deities. Then it is divided into 10th mandal, into 10 mandals or books. That is the What is that? That is